So you've been working and have come up, this community, Unity Church Austin, with a new vision statement. Centered in oneness, we seek to live our divine potential, become our best selves, and create a better world. And our mission statement is, we foster transformation and collective growth through prayer, shared study, and love in action. So my talks, I'd like to start with affirmations. So I created an affirmation for us to say. And of course, for those who are new or who have forgotten, affirmations, of course, are statements of truth, right? And we don't say them to make them true, but because they are true. And we're going to do this affirmation, but we're not going to sit, are we? Not with me, you don't. We're going to stand up for those who are willing and able. Let's get ready. All right. Centered in Christ consciousness, I promote transformation through prayer, community, and loving action to create an inclusive and better world. Do you believe it? Yes. All right, so let's do it our second time. Centered in Christ consciousness, I promote transformation through prayer, community, and loving action to create an inclusive and better world. Now, this third time, I want you to turn to a neighbor and affirm this for them. Centered in Christ consciousness, you lead, promote transformation through prayer, community, and loving action to create an inclusive and better world. Thank you. All right, and you may be seated. All right, I got to tell a little story, of course. I got to open up, you know. So, not so long ago, a politician was tragically pushed and got run over by a bus and died. And her soul goes up, and she's at the pearly gates. St. Peter's there. And he's welcoming her, and he says, you know, before we get you all settled in, we got a slight problem to solve. You see, we've never had a politician make it this far before. And we're not sure what to do with you. So, we're going to have you spend one day in hell and one day in heaven. And then you can make a decision. She goes, oh, no, I want to stay in heaven. I know I want to be in heaven. St. Peter says, no, I got higher orders. It's not how it works around here. So he ushers her into the elevator, and down it goes. Elevator doors open wide. And she steps out onto a beautiful golf course. And she sees all her friends, and they're all dressed very smartly and nice. And they come and they give her hugs. They're kissing her on both cheeks. They welcome her. They go, they play a wonderful game of golf. They're all winners. And then they go to the country club. Really nice, on the ocean. Beautiful. They have a nice steak dinner and lobster. And then she meets the devil. He was a nice guy. They talked all evening, told jokes, danced. Wonderful time. Before you know it, her time's up. She gets back on the elevator. Goes back up to heaven. St. Peter's waiting for her. He says, okay, now you get to spend the next 24 hours in heaven. So for the next 24 hours, She's just, lounging on a cloud, singing la 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 la, playing her little harp. She's just having, she's calm, she's at peace. St. Peter comes at the end of the day and he says, well, you have spent a day in hell and you have spent a day in heaven. Tell me, where are you choosing to spend eternity? She goes, well, heaven was beautiful. I really liked it. She goes, but I actually had a really good time in hell. Really liked it. So, jump, down she goes. Elevator opens. And it's a wasteland. And there's filth and there's garbage. And her friends are dressed in rags and they're miserable. And she's like, she doesn't understand. And so the devil appears and she says, I don't understand. Yesterday, we had all this food and everybody was happy and it was beautiful. And she goes, I don't get it. I don't understand. And the devil goes, yesterday we were recruiting you. Today you're staff. All righty. Yeah. So something a little funny, right? Because maybe next what I have to talk about might not be as humorous. So we've gone through Holy Week, right? Monday, Thursday, dinner, washing the feet, the humility, it's about service. Friday, crucifixion, it's about darkness and how we all individually go through crucifixion and how we collectively go through it. Sunday was resurrection, and we do that too. So what's next? What's next? Action. Action? It is. It's time for a revolution, right? Because why else go through these crucifixions and resurrections? And right now, we need a revolution, don't we? So my talk today isn't going to be about just a metaphorical revolution. So I will be talking about a literal one. And so let me tell you that there's an intricate relationship between political action and spiritual responsibility, right? And it's been a subject of philosophers and theologians for centuries. There's been a lot of debate about it. But the essence of that discourse centers around the fact that one's spiritual beliefs, one's moral convictions should inherently guide their political actions, their political engagement, should it not? And in these times that we are going through right now, marked by strife and social upheaval, we've got an administration that is tearing down democracy, that is ignoring and defying the Constitution, that is kidnapping and abducting people off the streets, in the schools. They've gone to the elementary schools. Our judges. With the integration of spirituality into our civic duties, it's not just a moral obligation, but a profound spiritual responsibility. The concept of political action as a spiritual responsibility finds its roots in various traditions. Aristotle, he viewed politics as an extension of ethics. Martin Luther King saw civil rights as a divine mandate. The civil rights movement grew first from those hush harbors of the enslaved, which became the African American churches. Without those, there would be no civil rights movement. This church we study and practice the teachings of Jesus Christ. Talk about a revolutionary. Our movement was found on those teachings, those original teachings. I'm not talking about the teachings that the Council of Nicaea kind of changed and made anti-Semitic. I'm not talking about white American nationalism Christianity. You know, that white male, whitewashed anti-Semitic Christianity. But those original teachings of Jesus and the followers of the way. You know, the notion of political action as a spiritual responsibility is deeply ingrained in those teachings of Jesus Christ and in the teachings of the apostles. You know, throughout history, few individuals have brought about a transformation in this world like Jesus of Nazareth. His teachings, his actions, and ultimately his sacrifice, really, they were revolutionary because they crossed those cultural, societal, and religious boundaries. But what was at the core of Jesus' revolution? It was love. It was profound love. It was unapologetic. It was unwavering love that guided him. You know, as we contemplate today that concept of love's revolution, we are invited to examine our own spiritual responsibilities in upholding this legacy of justice, equality, and compassion. He was a revolutionary, right? He embodied all those ideals. He challenged the status quo. He critiqued the religious elite. He advocated for the least among us, the poor, the disenfranchised, the oppressed. You know, his parables and his teachings, they often subverted those conventional wisdoms. He offered a radical vision of a world governed by love and compassion rather than power and dominance. In the temple, what did he do? He overturned those tables. You know, he had interactions with women, tax collectors, sinners. He defied society norms. He demonstrated that the kingdom of heaven is inclusive and welcoming to all. So if we want to know the basic philosophy of a scientist or a politician or a scholar, we look at their speeches, right? We look at their writings. So if we want to know what Jesus really taught, we look at one of the only complete sermon that was recorded, right? And that is the Sermon on the Mount. Now, the Sermon on the Mount starts with this 8-verse prose poem, and it's known as the Beatitudes. What they are is a way of being. It's about an attitude of how to be in this world. And so I'm going to speak to those, but not the ones that you'll necessarily see written in the Bible. What I'm going to give you is a progressive theological remix of the Beatitudes by Reverend Dr. Mark Sandland. All right. Jesus saw the crowd, just ordinary folks, worn down by empire and bad religion. So he climbed a hill, sat down like a good rabbi, opened his mouth to flip the whole world on its head. Our spiritual responsibilities as followers of Jesus, and just as decent human beings, is to embody this revolutionary love into our lives. This means speaking up against injustice, standing up for the rights of the marginalized, and taking concrete actions to create a more just and equal society. Silence in the face of oppression is complicity. Silence is complicity. We are called to be the voices for the voiceless, advocates for the disenfranchised, and the defenders of the oppressed. Blessed are the poor in spirit, the ones the system calls weak, the ones barely hanging on, because love meets them right there and says, this world, it's already yours. Advocacy is a powerful tool in the pursuit of justice. It involves raising awareness about issues of inequality, educating others, and mobilizing resources to support those in need. Activism, on the other hand, entails taking direct action to effect change, whether through peaceful protest, community organizing, policy reform. There are many different ways we can do that. Compassion is the driving force behind love's revolution. It requires us to empathize with the suffering of others and to take steps to alleviate their plight. This can manifest also in various forms, from volunteering, from supporting initiatives that promote social justice, to simply offering a listening ear to those who are struggling. Compassionate action is a testament to our commitment to building that just and equal society. Blessed are the meek, not the doormats, but the fierce ones who refuse to play the empire's game because they know that real power looks like humility, and love has promised them the earth, not just a seat at the table, but the whole damn field. So did I miss a slide? Let me look. I did. There is a slide missing. All right, so we'll go to this one. So economic justice is a cornerstone of a just society. It involves ensuring that all individuals have access to resources and opportunities that enable them to live some kind of a dignified life, right? This means addressing issues such as poverty, unemployment, and wage inequality. It requires policies that promote fair distribution of wealth, support for small businesses, and investment in, among other things, education and healthcare. The slide that isn't up there is from Matthew 5:4, and it is, "Blessed are the ones who mourn, who cry over what's been lost, who grieve injustice and broken dreams, because love sits beside them with tissues and rage and whispers, 'You are not alone, and you're not done.'" Because the ultimate goal of love's revolution is to create a nation that is just, that is equal and compassionate. And this requires systemic change, dismantling structures of oppression, of racism, addressing economic disparities, and ensuring that all individuals, citizen or not, have access to basic human rights. It involves challenging discriminatory practices, advocating for equitable policies, and fostering a culture of inclusivity and respect. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice, not comfort, not compromise, but the kind of justice that flips tables and reimagines systems, because love will feed that craving. And the feast is being set as we speak. Political action as spiritual responsibility transcends all religious boundaries and is fundamentally a call to align our moral compass with our civic duties. It is the recognition that our actions in the political sphere have profound implications for the well-being of society. This moral imperative demands that we advocate for policies that promote social justice, protect human rights, and ensure the common good. Blessed are the merciful, the ones who forgive, even when it costs them. The ones who choose healing over revenge because they get what love is about. And that mercy, it always circles back. Social equality entails recognizing and valuing the inherent dignity of every individual, regardless of race, gender, sexual identity, or socioeconomic status. It involves challenging discriminatory practices and promoting inclusivity in all aspects of our society. It requires us to advocate for the rights of the marginalized groups and to work towards creating a society where everyone is treated with respect and fairness. Blessed are the pure in heart, not the rule followers, but the authentic ones, the ones who bring their whole messy selves, because when you lead with love, you see love everywhere. Cultural compassion involves fostering a culture that is rooted in empathy, respect, and understanding. This means celebrating diversity, promoting intercultural dialogue, and addressing issues such as xenophobia and intolerance, and so on and so on and so on. It requires us to challenge stereotypes, educate others about different cultures, and work towards creating a society that values the richness of its diverse heritage. Blessed are the peacemakers, not the peacekeepers who hush the oppressed, but the ones who kick at the roots of violence, even when it makes people uncomfortable, because they're acting like love's own children. And that's exactly what they are, what you are. So for Christians, politics entails an inevitable spiritual journey. But this is not the privatized expression of belief which keeps faith in Jesus contained in an individualized bubble and protects us from the world. Rather, it's a spiritual journey that connects us intrinsically to the presence of God, whose love yearns to save, whose love yearns to transform the world. We are called to be Christ, which means we share, always imperfectly, right? And always in community with others. And hey, when people insult you, call you names, twist your words, try to cancel your compassion because you follow the way of love, don't let it shake you. Laugh a little, rage a little, then dance on anyway. That's what they did to every prophet who ever dared to tell the truth. Now I want to share this from Valerie Kaur, who's a Sikh activist and a civil rights attorney and an author. And she said, love is more than a feeling. Love is a form of sweet labor, fierce, bloody, imperfect, and life-giving. a choice we make over and over again. If love is sweet labor, love can be taught, modeled, and practiced. This labor engages all our emotions. Joy is the gift of love. Grief is the price of love. Anger protects that which is loved. And when we think we have reached our limit, wonder is the act that returns us to love. Revolutionary love is the choice to enter into wonder and labor for others, for our opponents, and for ourselves in order to transform the world around us. It is not a formal code or prescription, but an orientation to life that is personal and political and rooted in joy. Loving only ourselves is escapism. Loving only our opponents is self-loathing. Loving only others is ineffective. All three practices together make love revolutionary, and revolutionary love can only be practiced in community. So, love's revolution is a call to action, an invitation to join Jesus in his revolutionary mission to create a world that is governed by love, justice, and equality. It is a reminder that our spiritual responsibility extends beyond our personal piety, and it includes advocacy, activism, and compassionate action. So as we strive to build a just and equal nation, let us be guided by radical love. We must speak up, stand up, and take action for the welfare of all. In doing so, we honor the legacy of Jesus and that contribution of that ongoing work of love's revolution. Our movement was founded by Myrtle and Charles Fillmore. People often think of Myrtle as the quiet one. Well, let me tell you, Myrtle was not so quiet. After all, if it wasn't for her speaking, the movement would have never have started. Myrtle, many of you know the healing, she healed herself through prayer by aligning with principles. She would go into a closet every evening. It took 2 years. Myrtle didn't stay in the closet. She came out of the closet and she went on the streets and she told everybody who would listen to her. We forget that part of the story about Myrtle. Myrtle went around and told everyone her story. That's how they started coming to her, because she spoke. She says, yes, pray and meditate, but then follow the guidance. That's what it's for. This is one of her other favorite sayings. Should one always be sweet and forgiving? Yes, but not necessarily soft and without backbone and individual conviction. We forget. These are Myrtle's words. So at the heart of Jesus' resolution was the concept of love. Agape love that is unconditional, selfless, and sacrificial. It was not passive, it was active, and it was transformational. And it compelled action, demanded justice, and sought the welfare of others. And he commanded us to love our neighbors, to forgive our enemies, and to care for the needy. It was a direct affront to the structures of power that perpetuated inequality and oppression. So in your bulletins, you have some reflection questions that I'll hope you ponder on and pray about, and then speak up and stand up. So today I want to close with a poem. And many of you may be familiar with it or different versions of it. But before I share that with you, I want to tell you about the man who wrote the poem, Pastor Martin Niemöller. And he was a very complicated figure. So he was born in West Germany in 1892. During World War I, he commanded a German submarine. And then after the war, World War I, he followed in his father's footsteps in becoming a priest. Now, the 20s were pretty rough in Germany. There was a new party, and Niemöller didn't believe that this new party could deal with the continuing problems with the economy and the political problems that Germany faced. You see, the Great Depression didn't happen just in the United States. It was worldwide. They don't teach us that. The Great Depression was worldwide. And it started in about 1929 when those businesses started failing and people were losing their jobs. And during this time, the Nazi Party under Adolf Hitler became increasingly popular. And they blamed the country's difficulties on Jews, foreigners, and the weakness of the previous administration, and promised they would improve ordinary people's lives. Niemöller was one of the Nazi Party's early supporters. And after he was ordained in 1929, he remained a strong supporter of Hitler, despite the party's hatred of and discrimination against Jewish people and other groups. And so, like many Germans, he believed that the Nazis and Hitler would provide strong leadership and make Germany great again, would make it a powerful and respected nation again. He also saw it as a way for Germany to bring back those Christian morals that he thought had been abandoned, even referring to Hitler as an instrument sent by God. So, but he would eventually split with the Nazi Party, not over politics, but because they assigned someone to the German Protestant church, and he didn't agree with those policies. And so he started to speak up against those policies, and he would be arrested several times. He would be arrested in 1937, well, in the 30s, several times, longest time for 8 months. They released him, and immediately in 1937, he was rearrested, but this time by the Gestapo, and sent to Sachsenhausen concentration camp. So he was sent to a concentration camp. You know that those were not even in Germany. So he was sent there where there were political prisoners, there were Jews, there were the Roma and the Sinti people, and anyone they considered asocial, alcoholics, beggars, and the list goes on. In 1941, he was transferred to the Dachau concentration camp, where he would spend most of his imprisonment. He was transferred to another camp in Austria in 1945, where he was liberated by American troops later that year. So after World War II, Niemöller repeatedly expressed regret at his previous support for the Nazi Party and his failure to oppose it more broadly. In 1945, he admitted he never quarreled with Hitler over political matters. Never. It was only about how it affected his church. In October, just a few months after the war ended, he headed a group of German churches who admitted they had not done enough. And Niemeyer was one of the very few Germans who called on their fellow citizens to accept their responsibility for Nazi atrocities too, saying in a sermon in 1946, "We must openly declare that we are not innocent of the Nazi murders, of the murder of the German communities, Poles, Jews, and people in German-occupied countries. And this guilt lies heavily upon the German people and the German name, even upon Christendom. For in our world and in our name have these things been done." So this poem is what he has become most well known for. And it's small. "First They Came" is the name of it. "First they came for the communist, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialist, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. And then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me." And we shall overcome. Love is rising because we are love's revolution. Thank you.